Hi everyone, it's Abby here with the Blue Barnette. This video contains instructions on how to complete this DIY kit that you received in this box in the mail. This box contains most of the items that you need to complete this kit, but there were some items I wasn't able to include. Those are a stapler, staple gun, or a hot glue gun, either of those three, a paper towel, and a water cup. When you open up this box, your stuff is going to be packaged a little bit differently than you see here, just in order to make sure it travels safely. But once you get rid of all that other stuff, you should see your wooden laser cutouts, 2 brushes, a toothpick, a Q-tip, a sponge. This is white paint, your paint pods. There's one marked G, that's glue, your bow, and this wooden round. One thing that I did forget to mention is paper plates. You can work right out of these paint pods, but it might be easier to have a paper plate on hand. You can see that there is a rope hanger attached already on the back, held down by a piece of tape. That's just to keep it out of your way while we're painting. You're going to start with this foam brush and do a solid base coat of white, starting with this edge. We do not do the back. Just remember that to achieve full coverage, you want to do that by doing several light coats rather than one heavy coat. This is one full coat. You can see that it still looks very streaky and patchy, and that is totally fine. It's going to dry very quickly, and then we will move on to do a second coat. You can see already where I've done the second coat on this panel right here, the coverage is so much better. This is 2 full coats for me. Before you determine if you want to do a third coat, you should let it dry fully, because until it does, it's still going to look streaky in some spots. I did a very light third coat, and now I'm happy with how it looks. You can see that I do still have a lot of this white paint left. As you can see that the lines that were on here got filled in with paint, so you can use this toothpick and drag it through the cracks to bring those lines back. While this dries, we're going to set it aside, and we're going to get the laser cut pieces Hello and Summer in front of us. This is where the paper plate is going to come in handy. I dumped the whole pod out onto this paper plate so that I could have access to it easier with this sponge. We're going to use this makeup sponge to paint all of these letters black. When determining the front and back of these letters, the front is always going to be a little bit cleaner and the back is going to be more charred. It doesn't really matter what side you paint when you're using black, but it does go on a lot nicer when you're not trying to paint over all these charred marks. When using these sponges, I like to hold the pointy end and use this flat end to dab. I'm just going to dip my sponge into the black paint and then just dab the black on all of these letters. Again, remember, a little bit goes a long ways. After you've finished painting these pieces black, the next thing we're going to do is get the popsicle pieces out in front of us in this pod. These pods correspond to the popsicles in the same order as I did on the sample, but you can mix and match and do whatever you choose. We're going to use this brush to paint one coat on each of these popsicles, remembering not to paint this stick. You can use your water cup to clean your brush between each color. So I just completed one coat on each of these popsicles. You can see that they're all going to need another coat. Specifically, the lighter ones always need more coats than the darker colors. They might even need 3 coats. So I'm going to wait for them to dry just a little bit, start back at the beginning, and do one more coat on each of them. Now I'm finished with the popsicles. The only one that needed a third coat was this yellow one. The rest just have 2. Now we're going to set these aside and get the round back in front of us. Okay, so first things first, you want to make sure that this rope hanger is still at the top. I even untaped mine. Then you can place these popsicles on here. You can see for placement, the bottom of this popsicle is just right above this bottom palette line, and that will help you with your spacing up and down. Left and right, don't be afraid to put the popsicles right down and kind of move them around to get the spacing right. Now you're going to get the glue, which is the pod labeled G, and this Q-tip, and you're just going to dip your Q-tip in the glue and apply it to the back of each of these popsicles. Keep the rest down and just go one by one. With this specific glue, don't be afraid to use a lot, although it does need some time to dry, probably about 5 minutes. So make sure you are keeping the project flat because if you pick it up, the pieces will slide. Okay, now we're going to get the lettering and glue that down. For this hello, good rule for placement is that this L and this H, the dip in those, pretty much touch this palette line that's right here. As for left and right, that's going to be up to your eye, but it is pretty easy since it's so long. These pieces are just going to go right in the center of each popsicle. So here I just wanted to show you how much glue I'm using. So it is a pretty good amount. When I set this on the popsicle, I want to just kind of set it and leave it. I don't want to push down on it too hard because the glue will seep out the outsides and that's what's going to make it look messy. So just be patient and let the glue do its own thing. So now the final step is going to be to attach this bow. That's one of the materials that I don't have for you, is a stapler, staple gun, or hot glue gun. My first choice would be a staple gun, then a stapler, and then a hot glue gun. But in terms of long-lasting durability, a staple gun is going to be the best option. Even if you're doing this in a group, if one of you have a staple gun, you can all just use it. If you are going to use a stapler, you're going to open it up and use it this way. So I know a lot of people are intimidated by these bows. Don't be. They're very forgiving. They're all wired. It probably was squished in the box when you opened it. Don't worry about that. It fluffs right back up because it is wired ribbon. So you're going to want to just like fluff it, play around with it, see how it looks best on the board before you staple it down. If there are some parts that are too long or anything like that, if you have scissors, you can always trim those down too. So now I'm going to go in and just start stapling. I like to start by stapling like the tails and stuff of this first, but then I'll fluff, and I also like to get in between some of these loops from the ribbon. So here's one. I'm going to stick my stapler right in there and glue that particular loop right down. So there you have our completed project. If yours is still not totally dry with glue, do remember to keep it flat for a little bit longer. If your project is going to be outside and getting direct weather and direct sunlight, I do always recommend sealing it. This is my favorite. It's a spray paint. It's just a Rust-Oleum clear gloss. It not only helps it from weathering, but it helps it from fading too. And thank you again for purchasing this DIY kit. I hope you guys had so much fun making it, and stay tuned for our next DIY kit that we'll have next month. As always, I appreciate your business so much, and so does my family. Have a good one.